Mark McMillion from McMillion Leadership Associates. I've probably known Mark for, I'm not going to give a big bio. Most importantly, because I'm not completely clear on the outstanding bio that he has. But, you know, he's had a long history with the West Point. I got to know Mark through my involvement and his involvement with the Harrison County Chamber. Great example of doing things professionally that create relationships and networks that, you know, I kind of knew a little bit about what Mark did, management, leadership, but I didn't really know. But I knew he was a good guy, knew he developed a relationship, and then Mike Woodall and Clay White and our construction services guys somehow hooked up with him. And he came and did a little talk at our construction services training here a couple months ago. I was so happy that we were able to bring Mark in and use it, and the reviews were great on it, so no pressure, Mark. So I thought, hey, that's good. We can all use a little different perspective from someone outside, leadership, related to what you guys did. So we went to lunch and had a nice catch-up lunch on all sorts of things, and I told him a little bit about where our company is. So he's going to talk to you guys a little bit today about apparently playing for the Varsity. But Mark, it was a pleasure to have you, and he's had a distinguished military and professional career, and entrepreneur, which our state could use more of. And always enjoyed his contributions to the chamber. His leadership very much came through in those meetings. So with that, Mark.
Thanks. Hey, good morning. I am excited to be here. I'm delighted to be here. So I playing for the Varsity. I also wanted to call it Hub of the Wheel and your leader's voice, because we're talking about all those things. And as project managers, we want to talk about things that you'll see. But right now I want to talk about something I really like, and that's myself. My wife loves this market in a nutshell. I'm a West Virginia native, born and raised down in Summersville, live spot in the road in Nicholas County. But now I live in Clarksburg. I'm married up, and I traipsed around a long time, and you'll see where I went. Out of high school, Nicholas County High School, I went to West Point, the United States Military Academy up in New York. It is a school for Army officers. That is its raison d'etre. That's why Thomas Jefferson signed that law in 1802 to establish it, because our country needed professional leadership in the armed forces, and mostly engineers. And that's why every cadet is required to take at least 5 engineering classes. So every cadet that graduates at West Point has a minor in engineering. So you may be a philosophy major with a minor in engineering. I think that makes some interesting mixes. It makes it for a very well-rounded education. So I spent 22 years in active duty. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. While I did that, some of my favorite positions was a platoon leader in Germany. I'll tell you a story about that very quickly later on. A battery commander out in Oklahoma, where we took shaggy-haired kids off a cattle car, literally a cattle car, and we buzzed their heads and we turned them into soldiers in about 8 weeks. And that's a pretty intense process to put those kids through, boys and girls. They come in boys and girls, they enter men and women, exit men and women. Battalion executive officer for artillery battalion. I got to go back and teach at West Point in the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Leadership for 3 years. Incredible experience. My time in the classroom was enormously fulfilling and meaningful. My last duty assignment was a NATO exercise planner, and that's one of the things I'm going to draw on the most for what I talked to you about today. I was a project manager for year-long projects is what it came to. We didn't call it project management, but we designed and delivered exercises involving soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, politicians from around anywhere from 15 to 25 different countries. We moved them all over Europe. We created new countries. We carved up Africa, created new maps from the bottom up, and those of you in survey know how much work mapping is. Cartography, we had a mammoth GIS section to create those. And we created brand new countries, and we executed headquarter level exercises. A typical exercise was about 12 to 13 months from planning to conclusion with hard deliverables. During my time in the Army, I was in Germany, I was in Norway, I was in Iraq twice, 2 combat tours in Baghdad. I'll mention that later on as well. Not fun, a wonderful country, some wonderful people over there in Iraq, but it was not fun over there. I did not enjoy it. Normally, another group. Well, every place I've been, I've enjoyed, which all over. I've been in business now since 2013. Some of the customer names you may recognize: Frontier, Unicor, Stockmeyer Urethane, which is another little bright spot of light here in West Virginia. A small company flying under the radar, doing well, growing slowly, strongly. And Swanson Industries up in Morgantown. 4 kids. Oldest is a senior at Marshall. Young lady is majoring in biochemistry and forensic chemistry, double major. Graduating in 4 years, 3.3. I'm pretty proud of that kid. The others are all younger than that, and they're going to be great too. Been married 27 years. But you, this is about you now. That was about me. This is about you. Project management. You are right there, right? You're the hub. You're the wheel. And in case I didn't understand it, Chad sat me down, made sure I understood it.
I've been there.
Thrasher revolves around project management. What you do as a project manager makes or breaks this company every single day. The echelons above you exist to make sure you have the resources you need to do your job. The technical experts exist to do the work that you organize, that you plan, that you coordinate. Now, so project management is a tough, tough job. It's one of the most in-demand jobs across the nation, in case you didn't know that. I think, how many people in here are PMP certified? 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe? It's a tough, and we'll talk about that very, very briefly in a second, but sometimes project management, it's nice if you were just the axle and you were stationary and everything revolved around you, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it feels more like that, right? Sometimes it feels like the whole world's turning with you in it as well. But we're going to talk about, so the title is project management, but I think there's a lot of components of leadership that have to be there. I'm going to talk to you a couple minutes about the difference between management and leadership. And there's a lot of overlap between them. It's not a hard engineering black and white break between the two. And every position, whether it's Chad as a CEO, or you as a project manager, or a first line supervisor, you have to employ elements of both management and leadership to get the job done well. First thing you need to know, managers is about material and processes. Things. You manage things, but you lead people. You lead people. And when you forget that, you're going to crush the spirit of the team. When you start trying to manage people as things, as objects, you're going to crush that spirit. People don't like that. People don't like being treated as a number. As a guy in the Army for 22 years, we did a lot of treating people like numbers. And people don't like it. But great units don't do that. They understand people are people. And the connection between those two is you need to understand people are what make all those processes happen. Whether you're in a chemistry lab and you're just trying to do a acid-base titration or whatnot, it's still people that are putting those ingredients together in the right amounts at the right time. And it's the same thing in project management. All the technical work gets done, but it's people that are doing it and working together. So the compare and contrast slide, I know it can be very dry. We'll go through it very briefly. You can't see what I'm standing. That's all right. No, I want you to see. I spent 3 weeks doing that slide right here. No, I didn't. And we could write a book on management versus leadership, and people have it. We're not going to. We're going to hit it really quick. Managers are about solving problems. They're about solving problems, how to get things done. And what they really primarily do to allocate resources. What are some of the resources you allocate? What are some of the resources you have to allocate as a project manager?
People.
Time.
People? Who said people?
The HR director.
The HR director. Spot on. Who said time? Time. What else? What else?
Resources. Money.
Money. What else? What are the resources? Time, money, people, equipment, man hours. I know it's kind of a function of people and time, right? So you allocate those resources. Typically, managers are very objective. There's not a lot of emotion involved with management. And that's okay. That's okay. But you got to realize when those get together, it changes. And if you look at the requirements for a project manager, one of the three big ones they do is plan, organize, and coordinate. There's a couple others, I'll list those in a second. But you plan, organize, and coordinate. But the biggest thing, this is the first half of a very often quoted sentence, is managers focus on doing things right, making sure things get done correctly. And that's critically important. But leaders give purpose. And this is what motivates people, especially younger employees. Now, I'm woke. I got it, right? You know what that means, woke? Just didn't think an old guy like I did well. And people have always wanted to find meaning. We spend an enormous amount of our lives doing work, and we want it to be meaningful and more than just a paycheck. And never is that more important than it is in this day and age right now. The younger generations, people, when I'm talking younger, I'm talking about people 35, 30 years young, they're looking for meaning in their life. I'm not making millennial jokes, okay? Of course we could, but I'm not. But they're looking for that what they do makes an impact on the world, and it makes a difference. And you know what? You're working for a company that gets that. I took a snapshot off the website, and the mission, right? I couldn't blow it up because I wanted to thrash it. I wanted everything in there, right? But you know, to improve the communities where we live and work by driving infrastructure development. I know you all can recite it from memory. I'm not you. But see, you get that. What you do matters. Now, sewage treatment plants. Sexy? Yeah, not so much, right? But let me tell you something. In 2005, when I was in Baghdad, Iraq, our #1 priority was a massive sewage treatment plant. Because the sewage in East Baghdad, that section of Baghdad, that's where Saddam Hussein kept all the Shiites, the ones he didn't like, was about the same as it was 2,000 years ago. You had a little hole in your floor, and you went to the bathroom, and they had a little ditch. They went to a bigger ditch, and the bigger ditch went to the river. When you eat, sleep, breathe, and live in the presence and smell of human excrement, how are you supposed to do great things? How are you supposed to rise above that? So the United States Army and the Allies and everyone involved in that effort, we put several, I think it was a couple $100 million into building a massive sewage treatment plant. And Iraq, not all the Iraqis like that, because they wanted stuff they could see right now. Sewage treatment plants take a while to build, but it's incredibly important to people. It's like air. How many times do you notice the air until you don't have it? Well, that's the way sewage treatment is. Anybody, you lose water service at your home, and all of a sudden, you know, if it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow, right? Because you have to do that, right? And then all of a sudden you realize, man, I like flushing that toilet every time, not just every once in a while. It makes a matter in the quality of people's life. And that's what you do. That's the tangible results of your efforts. So going back to this, leaders build the team. That's part of what you're doing today. But when you're a project manager and you have your, you call it a task force or you told me, I forget. You have that team. You bring that team. You're the leader of that team. Now that doesn't mean you have hire and fire authority necessarily, but you are the leader of that team. You may be a leader of peers, and that's okay. You know, leadership is not about rank, it's not about pay, it's about responsibility, it's about providing inspiration, direction, and guidance to help get things done. It's not about your position. I've seen privates in the Army lead a patrol very well. It didn't have to be the officer, it didn't have to be the sergeant to make that happen. Leaders take care of people. And you've got to realize there are people. There's an old saying in the Army, that soldiers won't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's taking care of people. And that's part of building that team. You've got to harness emotion. You don't turn emotions off. All right? Leadership, emotional intelligence is a critical. This is a book I read late last year, EQ Applied. If you're looking to read about emotional intelligence, you don't know anything about it, this is a great place to start. On your handout, there's another book. Daniel Goleman has written, I think, 7 or 8 books about emotional intelligence. It's not on your handout. That should have been. But emotional intelligence is critical. And emotional intelligence isn't about manipulating people. Some people want to portray that. It's about understanding your own emotions first, controlling your emotions, then tuning into the emotions of other people. There are times when I know my boss. There's a time to pitch him on a new idea, and there's a time not to pitch him. But I've got to know that, and I've got to understand that. And the same thing with your teammates, it's the same thing with your subordinates. And you can get all high and mighty about it, say, well, I'm the boss, and I'll tell them whenever I'm damn well ready. If that's the way you want to run things, good luck. You will run things for a short time. But we'll talk about that in a second as well. And this is the other half of that sentence. Managers focus on doing things right. Leaders focus on doing the right things. So picture, if you will, a whole group of managers building a trail through the forest. And Covey uses this example in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when he talks about it. The managers are slugging away. They got machetes. They're chopping the vines, the elephant grass, making a great path. A leader climbs a tree and looks. And he says, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. That's what leaders do. Make sure you go in the right direction. But the manager is down there and says, shut up, we're making progress. And that's a key difference. They have different focus. You are at a point where you've got to wear both these hats. And I said, leaders at every level, every supervisor has to wear both those hats. There's a part where you turn the emotions off, but when you're talking about people, you cannot turn your emotions off. You've got to know those and understand those. If you have questions, don't hesitate. I don't mind. I like to answer questions as we go. Don't wait till the end to ask them, okay? Any questions about what we just talked about, those things? No? Good. So when you look on the PMP certification online, if you're set for that exam, it breaks it out into 5. I think there's like 175, 200 questions on the test in each of these areas. The bulk of them focus on executing, because execution's hard. It's hard. That's where the rubber meets the road. None of it's easy, but I think that's the part you get the most juice for the squeeze. And what we're going to talk about, we can't talk about all those things. I wouldn't dare to. And you, even in the next 2 days, you won't talk about all of them in great detail. But that's why Thrasher's putting this program together to help you become better project managers. But we're going to talk about one specific skill that's going to help you across all those areas, and that's communication. And that's where leadership starts. Leadership starts with communication. If you cannot communicate clearly with people, you cannot lead them. You can't. Even if you're a mute and have to do it through mime and sign language, you've got to be able to communicate. If you can't communicate, you're not going to get people to follow you. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to get there. You've got to lead them, and you start with communication. So I need you to take a break from your lunch. I need you to partner up. You can use a handout, or you've got notepads and pens. So find a partner. One partner faces the front of the room. One partner faces the back of the room. Okay? The person facing the back of the room, taking a vow of silence. Okay? For the duration of the exercise. If you're facing the front of the room, you do not look at what your partner's drawing. You keep your eyes. I'm going to number you off. 1, 2, 3. So you're number 1. I don't see people moving. I don't see people moving. Was I unclear?
What am I doing again? Oh, good.
Back to back, what's best?
Circle and a square. Big circle? It's a circle bigger than a square. All right. Whereas on horizontal, straight through the middle, all is
Alright, say that last
and then after that, we want to draw essentially it's going to be an arrow on the right side of the square, but it's not a line arrow.
Trash, let's get this right. Alright, so same number, if you don't remember the number, just pick one, but 3 different pictures. I made it a little bit harder.
Okay, now directly next to the circle is the star on the right. Draw a diamond, a large diamond that extends a little bit above the circle and a little bit below the star. Inside the diamond is a cross, but not a religious cross.
And they're no fun. No fun. So that idea of that. So what does a two-way conversation enable you? The feedback. What does that enable? So what? Huh?
Confirmation.
Confirmation, right? What are you doing? So what are you doing when you're confirming things?
You understand what the person you're conversating with does not understand.
Equivalency of knowledge.
But that's exactly right. You're achieving a mutual understanding. You're achieving clarity. You're removing the ambiguity. A 5-point star. Okay, was the 5-point star a point down? It could be 2 points down. Which way is it oriented? An equilateral triangle. Which way is it oriented? Most people think of a triangle resting on a horizontal with a point up. Most people do. Maybe not you. This triangle is different. I told Brittany, I got to change this. A 5-point star is too easy. I need to make like a 6-point or a 4-point star because that would make it harder. Because 5-point star, most people when you say star, they immediately picture a 5-point star. But sometimes in other cultures, say in Israel, when you say a star, what do you think they picture? A 6-point star. Star of David is a 6-point star. So that's one of those challenges across cultures that challenges you sometimes. And by the way, there's different cultures in this room as well, right? What are the cultures in this room that we have to cross paths sometimes? What do? The guy you spoke to.
I'm a lawyer.
A lawyer.
You get paid.
What do? Surveyor. You're an architect. What do?
Utilities.
You people don't speak the same languages. You don't speak the same language. You have different cultures. And you've got to bridge that divide. And as a project manager, you see, leadership, there's a huge breakout between single function leadership. You're leading a survey party, for instance, right? A survey, everybody's a survey, everybody's doing the same thing, for the most part, the same task. But a project manager, that's that quantum leap in leadership, because now you're managing multi-functions. You're not the expert. When you're in charge of a survey party, you're probably the best surveyor in that party, or at least the most experienced. You know that task backwards and forwards, front to back. But when you're a project manager and you're the surveyor, you may not understand site prep. You may not understand marketing. You may not understand that pursuit piece you were talking about in the session before mine. So you've got to learn to ask the right questions. but you got to learn to communicate before you do even that. So asking those right questions, that's another level of leadership we're not getting into today. But this comes, what this really is captured in Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Who's read it? Anybody? A few of you? I would tell you I've read it 2 or 3 times. And every time I read it, I get another level, another depth of understanding. It's a tough book. It's what I call a taffy book. Anybody have hard taffy, right? You put it in your mouth, it's hard. It doesn't yield. You get a little bit of the flavor. But the more you chew on it, the softer it gets, the more flavor you get, the more goodness out of it you get, right? That's what this is. You've got to spend some time chewing on Covey to really get what he's talking about, to understand it. It's a tough read. But the 5th habit, seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's about asking, it's about clarifying what the other person is saying. Not assuming that you know. So a woman walked into the kitchen, and her little girl was standing there holding 2 wonderfully delicious apples. And the mom said, "Hey, would you share one with me?" And the little girl took those apples, looked at her, said, took a little bite, started chewing it up, took a little bite, started chewing it up. A little bite out each one. And the mom is just crushed. What have I done? How have I failed to raise my little girl not to share with her own mother of all people? What a horrible person I am. What a horrible mother. And she's sitting there, and all these thoughts are rushing through her head, and that little girl's sitting there chewing, and she finished it, and she goes, "Here, Mommy, this is the sweetest one. It's for you." Me, I've been all over my kid. I've been, "What are you doing?" But if you ask the question, what are you doing, honey? Why did you do it? Now you're looking for understanding. You're not just reacting in the moment emotionally and viscerally. You're controlling your emotion, and you're asking the question to achieve better understanding of what's going on in the other person's head. And as a project manager, there's going to be times when you're on a schedule. You have deadlines, and you're saying, "What's your name?"
Clayton.
Clayton. And I'm saying, "Clayton, I need this done." What do you do?
Environmental permit.
We need those permits. Hey, I've asked you 6 weeks ago, we need those permits, and we need them next week because we're breaking ground. We got to get, all the magic stuff that happens. And Clay's not doing it. So I can get so mad at him. I can yell at him. "Hey, you're lazy. What you just sitting on your butt? What are you doing? Just eating Cheetos?" I can go off. That doesn't get me the permits I need. What I need to do is engage him and ask him what's going on and figure out what. At the end of the day, it may be he's eating Cheetos in the office all day. I don't know. Then that's another conversation. But odds are, especially in an organization like Thrasher, he's busting his butt to do what he's supposed to be doing. And if you just blow up at him and there's things outside his control, you're creating enmity, just like ill will between people, and you're destroying any vestige of teamwork between people. Ask that question. Somebody's not doing what you think they should be doing. Ask, "Help me understand what's going on here. I thought you were working on this today. I thought you were going to have this for me on Monday. And now it's Friday afternoon, you're saying no. Help me understand what happened." Well, because Chad grabbed me and took me on special projects all week, and my special project was driving a golf cart. Because his caddy was on vacation. All right, so I don't know. But when you listen, you got to listen with your eyes as well. Now, what do you think that means? Listen with your eyes. That kind of sounds silly on the surface. Body language. Body language is huge. And you never, ever learn anything when you're talking. I'm sorry. The only thing I've ever learned while I'm talking is that I'm boring somebody. Because even when I'm talking, I'm listening with my eyes and I'm reading that body language. So you'll have a social this evening, right? And, what's your name? Brad. So Brad and I are standing at the social table. You watch. And Brad's talking about how he painted his living room last night. And it's awesome. And he got the whole wall painted and he sat and watched it. Oh, this part was still shiny. It wasn't dry. But this part was dry. But this part I painted for, it was still glossy. You watch my body language because I'm going to sit there going, Okay. And I'm looking for an escape. I'm turning my body away from it. Then all of a sudden he starts talking about something started digging through the wall where it was drum paint. I'm like, whoa, what? Hey, now I'm interested. And I reorient my whole body towards him. That's a silly example, I know. But you watch people, when you watch people in a social gathering, people talk with their feet and their bodies. And I know when someone's looking at me and I have eye contact and they're squared up to me, I'm pretty confident they're listening and they're interested in what I have to say. And if they're not, I mean, how many times have you talked to one of your children? Hey, look at me while I'm talking to you, right? Because you know they're not listening to you if they're looking around. You're not sure if they're listening to you. That's why it's so important. And you got to be present. Now, these little things, and some of you remember, some of you don't. You know, I remember growing up with the little curly cord and right. This is light years removed from that, right? And the power and what we can do. I can run my business, every aspect: customer relations, sales, marketing. I can build web sites. I can build presentations on my phone now. That doesn't need to be where you are all the time. It is a horribly distracting thing. And if you are sitting there talking, how many people think you're great multitaskers? What? I commend you on your honesty, because almost inevitably I have somebody say, yeah, I am, I'm great at it. No, you're not. Nobody's good at it. The science is in. It's settled. You don't multitask. You task switch, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Am I right, Susan? You're right. I know she's an educator and she knows for sure. You go back and forth. You're dividing your attention constantly. And people feel that. People feel that. I had to go brief, well, I won't tell you that story. Anyway, I got kind of short with a one-star general one time in the Army and made him close his laptop to listen to me because I thought what I was important. And he wasn't present with me. The greatest gift you can give someone is your attention. And when people are talking to you, they bring in a problem to you, they don't want half your attention while you're reading email, text, Facebook updates, or whatever. Put the thing down. Put it on silence and set it down when you're talking to your people. Now, there's times when you're working with the phone, and that's different. You know what I'm saying? But the idea is, don't let that thing govern your life. He who focuses wins, or she who focuses wins. This is a focus or attention fragmenter, and I have to fight it all the time. I yell, my house, we have family dinners, no electronics at the table. We're having family dinner, we are together. We are present together as a family. The only time during the day that we're all together in a family. So communication. Aristotle, this guy, 2,500 years, kind of cracked the code on it. So you'd think we'd all be experts on it by now. We're not. We're lousy communicators, generally speaking. Not because we try to be, because we take it for granted. He talked about 3 things. He talked about ethos, that's your credibility. If I'm up here in ripped up blue jeans and an AC/DC concert t-shirt, I've started myself in a hole. Because you're looking at me like, this guy's supposed to be an expert in anything, you're not going to believe it. But ethos is your personal credibility. So what does it start with? What's your ethos? What does your personal credibility start with, you think? Truth. Before that. Who said that? Up here. Did I give you one already? Freshen those things out, right? So you're appearing. Within 15 milliseconds, when you meet someone, you're assessing them. You're sizing them. You're forming an opinion of them. 15 milliseconds, it starts. Is this somebody I want to know? Is this somebody I think is interesting? Is this a loser? Is this a potential romantic partner? Or whatever it is, you start going through all those things very, very quickly. Your personal. Now, what else makes credibility? Obviously, your appearance. What else does? Truth, clearly, which is an indicator of something else. What else? Why would I listen to Mike about anything? Why would I listen to this guy? How long have you worked at Thrasher? 17, 18. Why would I listen to that? An old guy. Older than dirt, right? I mean, you're probably at least 45, aren't you? See? Why would I? Mike and I got to know each other a little bit when I was working with the services group. But why would I listen to him? Experience. Yeah, he's a little bit older. He has experience. He's been there. He's done that. And you talk about your models, seller doer. It's so much more powerful. Have you ever tried to sell somebody something that you've never done yourself? You're out there in the dark. You don't know what you're talking about. You can read every book on emotional intelligence in the world, and if you haven't practiced it and worked at it, you're wasting your time because you don't know what you're talking about. Experience counts a lot, and that creates reputation comes from truth telling as well. So you have this reputation. All that speaks to your credibility. Your pathos is the logical component of your argument. The emotional, not the, no. Pathos is the emotional content of your argument. Logos is the logic. So it's the emotional, it's the feelings involved. And that's why emotional intelligence is so important for leaders to understand and grasp. The logos is the logic. Now when you're talking to engineers, they're all about the data. I got a degree in civil engineering. I got another degree in something called cognitive systems engineering. I know about how data drives decisions. So when I talk to engineers, I put a lot of data into it. I'm telling percent, 17% of your body language, blah, blah, blah. I just beat them right over the head with that. But I never leave out, it's about finding the right balance. It's about knowing your audience. The first thing you teach when you start writing is what? Know your audience. It's the same thing in your leadership. You got to know your people. What do they respond to? I would tell you, I work with soldiers, they respond to a kick in the pants. When I would question their integrity, I would question their manhood, they will stand up and prove me wrong. And there were others I would ask them, hey, what are your parents going to think when I tell them you're not doing your job? And by the way, I did write letters to parents of soldiers in the Army. Good and bad sometimes. You have big tough guys break down in tears. Oh, I can't let mama down. My mama would be embarrassed. That's right, she would be. Get your stuff together, I think. But it's that balance of emotional content and logic. And we're not going to become experts on that here. So when you're face to face, there's a video clip I'm not going to show you real quick. But words matter. Words matter. Words matter. So what's your name? Jordan. Jordan. I don't want you to do what I say. But if I say, Jordan, come here. Jordan, come here! Big difference. Same words, 3 words, right? Jordan, come here. But that second time, Jordan's gut clenched. And he's like, ugh, something's wrong. He didn't know if I screwed up, he screwed up, the roof fell, and he knows something is not right. And somebody's angry. I say, Jordan, come here. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Big deal. Big deal. And that's what I got ahead of myself, you know what I'm saying. The choice of words you choose need to be appropriate to your audience. Right? If you want to talk about the concomitant oscillation of vibrational variation between, if you're not talking to a materials engineer or something like that, that's not going to make any sense to them. And they don't, you just need to say, hey, this thing's wiggling too much. That's what you need to say. Right? We need to firm that up. So that's, word choice is important. Tone of voice is about Jordan, come here. The tone of voice is incredibly important. And then the body language. You can talk about, you can see people, some people in here are very relaxed, some people are uncomfortable, some people are now, there's a lot more art to body language than science. Anybody ever see that TV show, Lie to Me? Talk about micro expressions a lot. That stuff takes years, and I'm not a proponent of that. I'm talking about the big stuff like at the party where somebody's listening to you, someone's kind of listening to you, someone's looking to, like, I need to get away from this guy talking about paint dry, this is killing me. And that's the kind of body language. Just because someone's like this doesn't mean they're closed-minded. That doesn't. They might be cold. They may be a more comfortable position for them. Or they may say, I don't care what McMillion says, he's an idiot. We should get this over with. I don't know. So this cartoon here, which ran off the screen, letting someone go is never easy, Peters. Right? So why is that funny? Why is that funny? It's not funny somebody gets fired. So what makes that cartoon funny, though?
Body language doesn't match the words.
The body language doesn't match the words. He's all kicked back and relaxed, and he's telling you how hard it is that Peters, I'm firing you, and your kids are going to starve to death, you're going to lose your house, and live in the gutter, right? But his body language isn't doing that. But when you get those actions, when you get all these things in line up with one another, and this is about consistency. It's about saying what you mean what you say. And you back up your message with action. When Chad talks about, do you ever talk about work-life balance? So when he's talking about work-life balance, he's telling everybody that, hey, we're working till 9 o'clock on Friday night. I don't give a crap if your kid has a game. His actions are not consistent with that, right? His actions are, and his credibility is going to take a huge shot. But when you get those together, you have alignment of communication. I just can't stretch that. But that you have alignment of communication, and that's critically important for organization and a project manager as well. And that's why you don't make threats. And you make threats only when you are absolutely going to follow through with it. And when you tell somebody, hey, you better get this part of this project done or you're fired, you get fired by fire authority. You're wasting your time and your credibility takes a shot. So this is one of these, I'm going to give you about 3 little hacks that will help you. I don't call them tricks, because tricks are lacking substance. These are things that will help you. A back brief, I'm going here over on time, Art, I'm sitting.
You're fine, you're good. You're good.
Is you got to give the task. You're telling people what you need them to do. And you have that conversation, right? Because you want to make sure they understand. And what you do is they echo it, but you will make sure they tell you in their own words, not just parrot your words. That's how you reduce ambiguity. That's how you achieve clarity of understanding. So you know what I know. So Mike knows what I know because he just told me what I want him to do very clearly in his own words. Sometimes you got to give some time to do that. If I'm telling Susan, hey, I need next year's staffing, the education plan for project managers for 2020, well, she may not be prepared to start that right now. But Susan, what I want you to do is I want you to meet with me next Tuesday and just give me your thoughts on it, kind of tell me where you think you're going to go with it. I'm not looking for the answer. I want to hear your plan. Now you're giving them a chance to think about it, come back brief you. Now you have a powerful tool to achieve mutual understanding. And what that does, create alignments of effort. So in the Army, we have these things called drive-by taskings. Right? So the big cheese comes by and says, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, okay? And you're like, oh, no, I don't have time, I got a meeting, got to go, right? And I had him about 2 or 3 times, I wasted enormous amounts of time working on what I thought the boss wanted me to do, drive-by tasking. And finally what I learned to say was I would grab the boss by the arm. I said, hey, boss, do you have time for me to do this twice? Because that's what happened. Because he was giving me this off-the-cuff task. And a lot of times, sometimes bosses don't really know what they want. And that's okay. And then you do exploration by prototype. Anybody familiar with that term? Design by prototype? You know, you throw a straw man out there and you do it. I did a lot of straw man because I had a lot of bosses that couldn't articulate exactly what they wanted. You know, so when you're asking people what to do, make sure you give them a chance to have that two-way conversation, like we talked about after the drawing exercise. And if you have a boss that's doing that to you, and they're saying, I don't have time to explain this to you, then one of the techniques I've used is say, do you have time to do it twice? Have time for me to do it twice. A little confrontational, some people don't like that. But I would sum it up in an email. I would send them an email and say, hey, boss, here's what I think you want me to do, blah, blah, blah. That's where I'm going with this. Now the onus is on the boss to clarify if I've got it wrong. And that's that little technique out of a back brief. It's not a back brief exactly, but it's first cousin to it, to help make sure you understand what the boss wants to do, or your people. Did your people understand what you want them to do for you? Does that make sense? Small thing, I know. So this is a Humvee. This was back in the day before we understood that if you're a Humvee on a battlefield, people might shoot at you, right? This is not armor. This is fiberglass. These are vinyl doors. We had no idea on a battlefield people might shoot at Humvees. I don't know why the Army didn't think of that. So we ran into the war in Iraq, and all of a sudden they started shooting at Humvees. Anyway, bad people. So, but I was a platoon leader in Germany, and we were getting cold. We were going to the field in November or October in Holmfels, and it snows there. It gets cold. Now this little vinyl door may not look like much, but it helps hold heat in the vehicle. And my door was destroyed on my Humvee. So a lieutenant gets a driver, a platoon leader gets a driver, and the platoon sergeant told my driver, a good kid named, doesn't matter, from Missouri. Anyway, he said, look, you have 2 jobs. Keep the vehicle in top running order and make the lieutenant happy. That's all you got to do. And the guy goes, okay, sir. He's a good kid. So this was in 1992 after the wall had come down. Peace dividend, they cut the budget. We weren't fixing things unless they had to be fixed. And the Humvee is fully operational without a door. You can still operate it. But I was unhappy. I knew that fuel problem was coming, and I knew I was going to be cold, all my stuff would get snowed on. And so Friday afternoon, you walk through the motor pool, you call motor pool closeout when you're in garrison, Just make sure everything's just right dressed, neat and ready to put away, ready for maintenance on Monday. And I'm trooping the line, I'm looking at my Humvee, and I say, golly gee, shucky darns, or words to that effect. I said, man, I really would like to have a Humvee door. And of course, my driver's sitting there listening. I didn't think of one thing about it. I come in Monday, I've got a Humvee door. I'm so excited. Oh man, great job! You got a Humvee, it finally came in, awesome, super! All right. And then I hear a major, got 2 pay grades ahead of me, 2 rows over, screaming. Where is my dead shame Humvee door, or words to that effect? And I'm happy, and I hear him upset, and I'm happy, and I hear him screaming. I'm like, I figured out what happened. I got his Humvee door. And so I had to explain to my private that, you know, larceny was not part of the job description. And I had to go talk to my major, and I got a very great demonstration of a one-way conversation as he talked to me. And I walked away several pounds lighter, my pants sagging in the back. But that, because I was a platoon leader, my words carried more weight than they did if I were just among peers. And that's what I call the megaphone effect. And that's when you're the project manager or the CEO, you've really got to be careful of casual speech. Because people are always looking and analyzing what you're saying for additional meaning and causation. And what's going to happen? How are things? Are things good? Are things bad? Are we having layoffs? Are we going to do a merger? Are we doing an acquisition? Are we losing business? Are we gaining business? Are we getting a Christmas bonus this year? Are we getting pay cuts? People always want to know what's going on. And casual speech, if you're not careful as a leader, you'll send the wrong message without any ill intent whatsoever. And coupled with that is rumors and gossip. And I will tell you, I think those things are like cancer in an organization. And I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but a rumor is kind of like skin cancer. It's bad. You don't want it. If you don't do anything about it, it has a really bad effect. But gossip, that's pancreatic cancer. It attacks. It is very aggressive. And it will destroy an organization from the inside out. And as a leader, as a project manager, what supervisor work, you've got to deal with those things. And you don't always get to deal when there's time scheduled, especially rumors. Word gets out. You've got to squelch them. So one of the things we talk about how to communicate, body language, tone of voice, word choice. But the thing, expectations. A lot of times you'll hear a leader say, well, you should have known that. Everybody knows that. That's just common sense. And when I hear a leader say that when things have gone wrong, what I'm hearing is a leader refusing to acknowledge they failed to communicate clearly. Now there are some things that are just grossly obvious that somebody might have known, that gravity works, you know, that you don't drive 70 miles an hour on icy roads. But generally speaking, share those expectations. You've got to communicate and over-communicate those things. You've got to hit that drum several times to get that beat loud and clear. Standards, how you do business, and your performance feedback. Performance feedback cannot just be when things go wrong. It cannot simply be a drumbeat of bad news and criticism. You've got to hit the good with the bad. And I'll tell you, as a project manager, and you're thinking, hey, we're all equals. I'm the project manager, I'm just wearing this hat, but I'm no better than anybody. I may not be, but you're the project manager. And you need to tell people when they're doing well. And you need to let people know when they're not meeting your expectations as well. And that's a whole other class that we could spend several hours, but we're not going to. Last technique, and I'm almost done here, is something I call the 5 A's. So there's notes on the handout I gave you. You can explain those or write definitions for them if you want. But bottom line is, every once in a while, there's going to come a time when somebody just blows up. They're going to be red in the face, they're going to be screaming, they're going to be saying shucky darns, dad shame, maybe questioning your ancestry. You know, they'll say some mean things. And my instinctive reaction when someone yells at me, I yell back. They bow up on me, I stand up too. I want to fight. Not helpful. Not helpful, and it's not moving things forward in a positive way. This technique works. It has worked for me time and time again. And the first thing is absorb. Is you just got to let that person off gas. They got a lot of pent-up emotion, let them scream and yell. Sooner or later, they're going to stop and catch their breath. That's your opportunity. and you're going to send them this really strong signal, right? You're going to agree with something. Maybe it's something as abstract as yes, it's a bad situation. You're standing in front of me yelling at me, it's obviously a bad situation, right? You got to be careful what you agree with, right? You know, if they're in there screaming and saying, you know, that Joe's a lazy, no good, blah, blah, blah. And I say, yeah, you're right, Joe is. No, don't agree with that. Don't agree with that. But find some. That is that strong signal. Because when someone's yelling, they expect you to yell back. They expect you to elevate your emotion to their level. And when you agree with them, you're sending that powerful signal, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to fight. And then you ask the question. We talk about habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Ask that question. Now, don't just ask the question in a smart aleck flippant. Are you sure that's what they really said? Right? Now you're sending a different signal. The signal you want to send is, hey, I'm interested in this problem. I care about it. I want to know. I want to make sure I understand what's going on. That's a second signal. We're not here to fight. We're here to work through this situation. Now you have, once you have them talking, you have a conversation, and that's where you're able to add some context. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. In fact, the majority of the times I've seen people blow up, it has been about misunderstandings. And they got ramped up. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep the night before. Maybe they missed lunch. But there's some of these other emotional triggers that have happened that have put them in a place to blow up, and they're not thinking clearly. Now I add some context and make them, oh, Joe, I didn't realize that. Yeah. Joe and his wife just had a baby. He's up all night with midnight feedings. Yeah, of course, that makes sense. I thought he had changed. I thought he was tired. 2 minutes ago, I was screaming about what a lazy cuss he is. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, he had a baby. Oh, man, I need to ask him about his baby. And then finally, the fifth day is your action plan. You find, okay, how are we going to work through this? What are we going to do? If it's simply a misunderstanding, it's done. But if there is a real issue that's going on, somebody's not doing what they need to do, something's not coming together, the permits are not getting cleared, now you action, and that's what project managers do. You create a plan to solve that problem. Those are the 5 A's. So, I will tell you, project management is tough. You've got a wide array of activities and areas to focus on. You've got to develop those skill sets. Communication is one, emotional intelligence is another, delegation, performance feedback. There's almost no end to the skills that you need to develop and work on to become a great project manager. And we talked about each one of those things, and we're not going to review those in detail. Anybody have any questions about anything we talked about? I covered a lot, and I know I talked fast. It's supposed to be working lunch, and I blew time, and I'm really sorry, Susan.
You're fine, you're fine.
How bad did I blow it?
You're fine, you're right on.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Questions about anything? So we're all agreed I'm the world's greatest presenter. You have no questions. I just explain things perfectly. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question. I would like for you to share with the group, because I heard you speak before, but you told a scenario, and I'm not going to tell it, but I'd like you to tell the scenario about when you were stereotyping and you were in the restroom.
Ah!
Yeah, so not that I was there.
Sure. Susan's very interested in my bathroom now.
It did come out wrong. Communication did.
No, and it comes back to the ethos piece, your credibility, and how we judge people. Now, everyone's been told you don't judge a book by its cover, right? I mean, everyone's heard that. I know I have. But we still do. All the time. All the time. And I am, even consciously fighting it, I'm still guilty of that. So I was traveling down 79, stopped Gomar down Flatwoods. I'm in the stall using the restroom. And I hear a man and his little boy come in. And the little boy's coming in to use the bathroom. And the dad just has the most caring tone of voice. He's talking to his son about, how to use a public restroom. The kid was probably like 5 or what. No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. Don't. But the dad was so patient. And you could just tell he really loved his kid. He was teaching his kid. It was, kind of awkward in the bathroom. But, he just was so, I'm like, man, that's a great dad. That was my. So I finished, I walked out, I'm in line, and I see them come out of the bathroom. This guy comes out of the bathroom, he is tatted up, both sides, wearing a a wife beater t-shirt. You know what I'm talking about? The white tank top. That's a nickname for him. I don't know. I don't mean to apply any of you that wear those. But he was tatted up. He had really stringy hair, nasty ball cap, just gauges. And he had gauges. And I'm squeamish about gauges. I don't like it. And he's holding this little boy by the hand. I'm like, holy crap. If I'd have seen that guy before that, I was like, dirt bag, drug dealing, welfare, suck up. I would have made all those horrible judgments on his appearance and completely missed the fact, no matter what he looked like, that guy loved his son, was a great dad to his little boy. And that was a powerful lesson. And I kind of gave myself that mental kick in the pants, like, don't judge a book by its cover, Mark. But we all do, and you've got to fight that all the time. Because we see people, and we don't know them. And we see them, and we see their appearance, we think we know them. And it goes the other way. I've seen some people wearing some very expensive suits that were dirtbags, that were really unpleasant people that I didn't want to work with. And there wasn't a check big enough to get me to go work for them in their company, because that's the way they were. But he left Thrasher now, so no. I'm completely teasing. I've actually talked to Woody about 3 or 4 times in my life, and I always come away, that guy has been there and done that, and he has achieved some great things. Not only for himself personally, which is nice, but the company he has built and the enormous impact in West Virginia he's created. In my book, he's one of the good ones. And so I was completely for the sake of humor. Okay, so takeaways. Project management, you got to have management and leadership skills. You can't just be a manager. It's not about allocating resources. It's not just about doing things right. You got to make sure they're doing the right things, and you got to build that team. You got to build that relationship with people. It starts with communication. And yes, we all talk to everybody all the time. We all text. We all email. But I'll tell you what, the problems with text, no tone of voice, no body language. Same thing with an email. I've had people come hunt me down after I sent an email, fighting mad. Like, oh no, that's not what I meant. That's not what no, man, I was joking. And I was. Because there's other times they come hunt me down and I meet them halfway because I'm coming for them too. I do pride myself on trying to communicate very clearly. And the last thing is, none of this is worth anything if you leave it here. If you don't take it with you, if you don't take a handout and look at it and you think about these things and see how you can apply. So there's a couple questions on there. How can you use the back brief tactic this week? This week. Don't wait. Don't wait for next month. It may be with your wife or kids. That's okay. And that's the beauty of communication. It's not just a leadership skill. It's a life skill for wherever you do. Who do you need to do a better job of listening? I figured that out last night at the dinner table because I was getting ready to go off on my 12-year-old son because he said something. I said that, and I just wanted to respond. That was a stupid, and I caught myself before I said anything, and I asked that question, and then his thought process made sense to a 12-year-old. But he wasn't being disrespectful or stupid. But I had to catch him. I work at these things. I consciously work at them. And you have to too if you want to be better. And if you want to play for the varsity, if you want to work at Thrasher, you need to up your game. And that's the other thing that great leaders do. They're never satisfied with the status quo. The first leadership principle they teach at West Point is know yourself and seek self-improvement. It's always about getting better. And that's part of the culture here at Thrasher. That's why you've gone from Woody and his dad in 1982 to 600 people all across 7 states, the Mid-Atlantic region now. Because you're playing for the varsity, the junior varsity. Questions? Thank you. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you listening. And rolling forward.